So I think we're started. We're here. Hi, John Johnson. You know I like saying your name.
Thank you. Yes, it was my dad's name too. So we're not very original in the family. We just keep passing it down.
So are you a junior or a third or what are you?
No, that's why I have four names. Is because people started calling me Junior, so they stuck another name in there. Because my dad didn't want that to be. But my dad's name was John Johnson, so I'm John Johnson, John Johnson's son. It's true. It's true. Yeah, it's boring and
That's
easy to spell. Yep.
that's creative.
Yes, exceedingly so. I think they probably got it out of a chatbot.
Okay. They're like, what
It's
are
a
we gonna
good
name
name
him?
for a child of John Johnson. John Johnson,
John
first
Johnson.
choice.
There was no refresh. There was no
literally,
refine.
literally is the definition of it. But anyway, yeah, that's my name.
Right.
I'm glad to
So
be here.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
welcome.
you.
I'm glad that you accepted the request to be a guest today. So, hi everyone who's out there. Can't always see who's out there. I'm sure people join. But either way, if you see this now or later, this will be a very informative um, information for you all for today in terms of basically outlining what the industry looks like from the industrial revolution, so like the manufacturing and that evolution of automation to now today the AI revolution, and giving a little bit of strategies and our thought, capital, and leadership around that. So again, we have John Johnson from University of Maryland, who your staff and yourself put on a very good presentation from the Project Management Excellence Center of Excellence. So thank you. The symposium last month was awesome. I am so glad to have participated in that.
Yeah, thank you for presenting. We had 730 people this year. More than half were in person, and we just try to make it better every year. And it's possible because of speakers like you.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get into our discussion on the topic.
Sure. So my background is, a myriad of experiences in engineering and then project and product with some entrepreneurship thrown in. So I am the professional programs manager at the Project Management Center for Excellence. We have a number of degrees. We have a PhD, three masters, two undergraduate minors. And then we do a lot of work that isn't just degrees. We also offer courses online, massive open online courses. We have well over 500,000 learners who have taken those. And we also do the symposium, which is a lot of fun. And so one degree that we just launched, and we had our first graduating class in the fall of 2023, and now the second one is spring 2024. They're all going to have their first commencement on Monday, is a degree in product management. And that evolved from MOOCs that we developed that were trying to meet the needs of the industry in terms of answering the question of how do we get agile and products to really work well together? What's the missing link? And it was our opinion that the missing link was really great product management. That product management was the problem for scaling well. It was the problem for ensuring teams were continuing to move. It was the problem in terms of ensuring that they could build and integrate at scale. And it's just generally been missing from really great agile teams, is that they need strong product management. And so we created a degree that's all about serving that need as product managers are going through a reinvention curve in their profession now. Because when you can get fast feedback from customers, that is a game changer in terms of how we manage products. I mean, the big headline is product management's moved from marketing into operations because of their ability to closely interact with customers on a regular basis and get direct feedback. So this is really exciting, and then supercharged with AI and the ability to gather and grow and to be able to quickly analyze large sets of data. Hey, Crystal. That is that is actually a big shift also in terms of what product managers can do And then also a call to action for all organizations to step up and add this new function into their organization, because who else knows how to discover and deliver new capabilities with AI, than product managers. And product managers can figure out how to make things more efficient, how to make experiences better, and how to create whole new business lines. And that's what they do well.
Correct. Yes. And thank you for sharing that. Congratulations on the new program.
Thank you.
And the first graduates. That's awesome. I think it's really important to understand the shift into product management and how it did transfer from marketing into actual operations, which is a really important distinction. So Thank you for sharing that. So we want to talk really about, again, this is another conversation. I always start my LinkedIn Lives before the actual LinkedIn Live and have a conversation. And it was funny because when we met the other day, we were just trying to plan, and then we just started having the conversation during that time. And it's always so much fun. It is. It's always a risk. But it's just always so much fun to really engage and just be able to kind of analyze what the future will bring, and based off of historical facts, right? So you brought up Toyota, right? We were talking about Toyota and the manufacturing around that. I was talking about Ford and actually Heinz Ketchup after watching some things on History Channel about Heinz Ketchup and that manufacturing process. And without that structure and foundation, and the foundation of the Industrial Revolution, AI would be a little bit fickle. I think it would took us a longer time to get there if that Industrial Revolution process wasn't in place. What's your take about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting how we have many practices in our organizations that come from different parts of industry evolutions over time. So, project management is really about heavy industry and the ability to organize groups into large efforts. So the whole concept of scaled up organizations and systems engineering, that became a really important capability early on. So the invention of steel and the ability to work with buildings and create structures that were much larger than we could support with wood created the opportunities to build really large concentrated cities, and that required a lot of project management that didn't exist before, right? And then we saw that with the Industrial Revolution, we were able to do mass production, and mass production became really the differentiator in World War II, and then it became an engine of growth for the United States. And right during that time period, we started to improve on our ability to do project and product design. But again, because feedback was so slow, we didn't have information technology yet. A lot of times, though, that required studies, and that required a lot of marketing and upfront design and making bets. But also things were a little bit slower in terms of the evolution of markets. But from there, we learned about how we can begin to work at scale, to plan with networks, to understand uncertainty. And what I found really interesting is that is we look back kind of like the history of the major waves. We see that, we had these scientific management methods that evolved early on. They then transformed into essentially management directing those who are doing the work and how to do the work, where the supervisor knew more than the worker did. That got flipped on its head, of course, because of lean practices and the way in which decentralized control allowed for much faster response to customers, much less waste in development because of the nature of variation. And we learned about that, of course, from Deming, and Deming worked very closely with the Japanese industry in order to come up with better ways of management, right?
So tell me, wait, you have to stop you. Yeah. Say a little bit more about Deming.
Well, Deming was famous because of the fact that he invented statistical process control and applied it at first in the case of doing census work. And that's actually what deployed him over into Japan, was to help to do the census after World War II. But then in that process, he engaged with the Japanese Society of Engineers and JUSE. And then in that, he ended up interacting a lot with people who would form Toyota, and he actually learned from them, and they and he taught them about how to understand variation. And in that interaction came out this understanding that if you empower workers to own what they're doing in terms of their standards of work, you can have continuous improvement. And if you reduce the batch sizes, you can allow for decentralized control to better manage work through processes. And what was really interesting is that in 94, when he published his New Economics, he said that the number one emphasis on quality was actually having the right product for the customer, that manufacturing plants and companies can go out of business with 0 defects because they no longer are producing something that everyone needs. It's at the very beginning of his final work where he really emphasized what he called the system of profound knowledge. And that system of profound knowledge included mostly an emphasis on psychology and understanding management and leadership, and how to also focus on the customer and the customer's needs. And that your ultimate determination of quality is how well your product serves your customer, which sounds so much like what would be
agile.
Yeah, being discovered then, rediscovered, codified in 2001. A lot of people are onto this idea, but here's the person that's talking about statistical process control, and in the end, he's like, what really matters is getting the product right, and that's what he wrote in his book in 94.
So it's value, right? It's everything we talk about in product management, which is value. Making sure
value, that you're exactly. Yeah, you can have a perfectly developed product that has 0 defects, but it's no longer applicable, right? I mean, it's like the best VCR I had, 15 years ago. I'm not going to use it anymore.
Exactly, 20. It works.
But
it's no really value.
VCR. Yeah. I don't think I've seen a tape in the stores for like a decade, but it's a great product. It's just a great product for a different time, not now.
Like Nokia phones, right? They were
Nokia
really good
phones,
products.
yeah. Although they had a lot of defects, eventually their operating system was a big problem. Correct. So was their culture.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
But no, you touch on a lot of good points. Yeah, you touch on a lot of good points about making sure that there's value. So even if we start thinking about now, there's this AI revolution that was starting, I think now the populace of society is getting a little bit more, of course, ingrained into the whole AI revolution, but it started a while ago, right? And so now that we have this society ingrained into this AI revolution, what do you think? What's the correlation between stemming those practices from the manufacturing industry and then the correlation to AI today? Because I have my own opinions. Of course, we talked about that.
Sure. I'd be curious to hear where you think that's going. I'll chip in a little, and then let's build. My main thought is that what Deming was teaching was that we have to understand the system and bring in outside knowledge about how to improve the system, right? So that means that the way in which we can deploy AI either into the way that we work, in improving, adding new processes that are better or improving our existing ones, or into our products and how they serve our customers, or to create new business lines, whatever it is, that requires understanding of your customer, the system of delivering value to that customer in the form of products and services, and how everything works. And that is something that is innately human. But we have this great opportunity to really improve what we're doing. And I think that if we can apply those same techniques of quality management and look at where we're able to enhance quality, that's where the connections will be strong and will continue to be strong, because those elements of theory continue to be true. So the human role is to design the system as more and more of the activities are being done by artificially intelligent robots or services. So that's where I see the great application of the systems thinking and variation that comes from Deming.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I just want to also make this point that the way that I was introduced to Deming was, I think it was 2008. I was working with Joe Weeks. So if she's watching, which she probably is not because she's never on LinkedIn, but I was working with Joe Weeks, and she was like, she gave me that whole rundown that you just gave me. Deming went to Japan,
Oh
and it
yeah.
was just so fascinating about, you know, the Society of Engineers and how all of that efficiency came about, right?
Yep. Yep.
And a lot of people don't understand that aspect of it. And it's so interesting because he was here, he was in the United States trying to force the same type of infrastructure. But yet again, of course, this is going to be my opinion, because of capitalism, why would you want to be more efficient, right? Like that is a part of it. It's like, it's capitalism. It's like Deming. No, 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 no. We're capitalists. Go somewhere else with that, right? So I think that's a part
Deming
of it.
had some controversial opinions about a lot of things. He actually was
He did.
he was a proponent of monopolies. He believed that the
Yeah.
breakup of Bell was a catastrophe.
Yeah.
But because he thought that we could be more effective if we and efficient if we were to collaborate as opposed to compete. But he's not the only one who talks that way. So did Drucker. So did a whole bunch of other management gurus. So there's definitely there's that. But he was listened to eventually. You know, if you know the famous documentary "If Japan Can, Why Can't We" came out in the 80s, and then it grabbed everyone's attention. And then he was able to help Ford turn around their prospects in the 80s, and he worked with them up until the day he died. And kept going, and it was. But it took a lifetime for him to become an overnight success. He was in his mid-late 70s before people here was listening. Meanwhile, yeah, he collaborated with Toyota's like
every other country.
The difference. It's pretty remarkable. The number of cars per employee radically increased as a result of applying those principles at Toyota, and yet they were flat in all American manufacturing until they started to apply the lean techniques, and then they started to finally increase again. And I think we are going to have significant challenges as we look at subsidized markets in China competing with us in our car industry.
Correct. But any industry.
Or any industry.
Any industry.
We can't ignore what works at the sake of our ideology. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm. I totally agree 100%, because my other thought process about how the Industrial Revolution really correlates to where we are today is that we need that incremental approach, right? We need that incremental approach so that also people don't understand that it's not an overnight success. Although it's lean, the whole point of being lean is that it takes time. If you look at the evolution of the Camry, right? Since we're on Toyota, if you look at the evolution of the Camry, when the Camry first came out, like you said, a lot of people were buying it. And now look at the Camry today, the way that they're able to they were able to then model the Lexus off of the Camry. That's the whole point, right? You build a Camry, you model the Lexus, and then you're able to model all of your other trucks off of that version. And it could have started with the Corolla first, but the whole point was that they understood how they could commoditize on a repeatable process, putting all that structure in place, putting all the designs in place and the efficiency, and then reuse it for other models going forward. Hence, the same structure we need for any type of machine learning, for any type of deep learning, right? Like that's the same model. So if an organization doesn't really think about their strategy in the aspect of how is this going to impact my organization for whatever goals that I have in place for where we're headed in the future and the vision, but then also how is my data structured so that it's going to benefit me in the future so I can create these better models, these better cases, this better AI infrastructure.
Yes. And you bring up a really good point. So when it comes to innovation should not always be big bang breakthrough innovation. If we are always doing that, then we are definitely being extremely wasteful. And a really great book that talks about the strategy for how to do innovation well, depending upon the market cycle, is the book called The Lean Process and Product Development book. And I believe it's by... Actually, I have it right here. It's by Alan Ward. And so Alan Ward is actually talking about his experiences of having worked with Toyota about how to do this. So here's the thing. The most famous example of rapid innovation that comes from the 1940s was the P-80 Shooting Star that was the first jet airplane, right? However, that was, in the 1940s. And then Lockheed Martin continues to release plane after plane complex systems in like a year and a half. So how did they do it? Well, the answer was that the way in which they were able to rapidly release these really incredibly novel airplanes and remain dominant is actually through limiting innovation. So the way that they did it was they actually already had the jet engine. They already had all the information about how to design an airplane that could work that way using what they call trade-off curves. The thing that they didn't have was the combination of those elements. So that was what we would call limited innovation projects. And there's multiple types of projects that you would do. The way that the book talks about it is that you have research and development to go discover new ways, and that is really common and should be a part of every major release of any product, that you're constantly doing that, especially early in the release cycle. There is platform projects that are like the first release of the Prius, right? That was a platform. There's a lot of work that went into that. Toyota had to embrace the ability to do hybrid vehicles, but they did it well, and that was a platform. Then they did limited innovation on top of that and tailoring innovation on top of that. Tailoring is like minor updates, right, from year to year, and then limited innovation might be just replacing one part that is currently, preventing even higher levels of value. So the key element that I would throw out is that when it comes to adopting AI and using AI, we need to take the same approach. Yes, you need to think about how do we get that platform that includes your data strategy, your technology strategy, your security.
Cybersecurity, yes.
Yep. All the key elements, all the abilities that you're going to need. Now, build that while concurrently exploring the applications and opportunities, and maybe even already applying the ability to use ChatGPT and other, canned AI to understand better
large language models. Yeah.
Right. But exactly. A lot of people are allowing you to use other versions like Perplexity. But then once you've got that platform, don't reinvent the platform, extend the platform, but make platform projects a rarity and make limited innovation and tailoring projects the typical mode of enhancing your product portfolio. And that allows you to have much faster time to market and spend more time researching what would be valuable. Because instead of spending all of our time trying to reinvent the wheel, we should spend all of our time with our customers learning what it is that they need.
Right. Yep. I agree 100%. And I know, if anyone's out there watching and all that other great stuff, mostly I'm on the software development side and not the manufacturing side. And people may be asking, what does manufacturing have to do with software development? So much. So much. Because at the end of the day, what we do is it's intangible. Manufacturing is more tangible. You can see the actual units, right? The units that are going to be, piecemeal together and connected.
Right.
But my goal is to do the same thing for software, right? Is to basically create these units of measurements that you can seamlessly put together and be able to put through a process, because that will create inevitably your a better CI/CD environment. So your continuous integration of, setup, and then a better DevOps or SecOps environment, right? But then if you add the requirements portion, because most people forget that, that is what product management is to really define the value. So once you start thinking about the discovery and the value related to it, and then you're able to incrementally define those aspects of what it is that you need, we can then really strengthen this AI revolution with those small, minor measurements of need, right? So if we're going through the product management portion of it, we're identifying what those measurements of needs are, which if we equate that to the manufacturing industry, that would be our nuts and bolts. So we have our nuts and bolts, we have our doors, we have our windows, we know what our scopes are. That's where we need to get into the digital side of product management. And I think we can get there with artificial intelligence.
Yeah. more to your point, I mean, look at how we're seeing AI deployed today, right? We're seeing AI deployed to enhance existing valuable services being offered by big tech companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So AI is enhancing our driving experiences. AI is enhancing our search experiences. AI is enhancing our marketing capabilities. AI is achieving efficiencies within our companies so that we can do more without having to grow our employee work base. Now that's a challenge because of the fact that, the question is, where do we, if we are lifting our work processes and we need fewer people, where do we go and invest them? And the number one thing that I would say is that with all these people who know so much about your company, you should invest them into discovering and delivering new opportunities for your customers. Like they can be recycled back. There's a really great model about this idea about how money flows from outsourcing into research and development, but people flow the opposite direction from outsourcing back into either operations or product development or discovery, because it's offered by Jeffrey Moore. It's his core context model, and it's a really great way of thinking about the cycles. But if we can take advantage of what this is giving us, which is space and time to be more strategic, we can go out and win. We can go disrupt our competitors. We can create new, deeper relationships with customers or open up new customer segments. There are lots of opportunities there. I think one of the things I'm actually a little bit saddened by is that we see so many of our big tech companies thinking that with these new efficiencies, their first thing to do is to cut labor forces. It's like, you got record profits. What are you doing? You got all these people who know your business. Why are you doing this? That's a rarity. That's worth money.
And it's also a shift in, I think a lot of the positions are going to shift, right? Like we're hearing now that we need more social workers to align with the artificial intelligence, right? To adapt to the social integration of artificial intelligence into these organizations. So easily you can take if you slice your customer service representatives, that's social work. When you got to talk to people all the time, you got to try to help them figure out their problems. You're doing a little bit of social work. You can transition that customer service base into this social worker type of product, and not social worker in terms of the ones that are like working directly with adoption or foster care. We're talking about social workers that are able to understand the organizational development of that business as they're integrating a product within their organization. You can turn those people into great champions, and that's just one example.
They can become essentially your frontline, and I think there's also just there is an enormous amount of new opportunity for investment that didn't exist before as a result, right? Like we can do more, so we should. And I think that it's short-sighted to take people out of a business because you created some efficiencies. Reality is that you're just hollowing out your success. But more to the point of what you said earlier, and I wanted to go back to this. So if you think about the value streams through your organization as being like a factory, right? And that you want to have really great processes to incrementally release things that are going to add value to your customers. The typical value stream model of how do we move from big design upfront projects to incremental flows of product pieces and discovery elements. One of the big things that I think is always missing when we talk about this is that a significant amount of the work that flows through value streams is risk reduction and exploration. A significant amount of the best organizations are spending at least half of their time learning about how to tackle risks and to reduce risks or to address technical issues, or learning about their customers, most importantly, and what it is that they need on the next release. Because
it's proactivity, it's proaction.
Being proactive. So instead of reactive, becoming proactive. And so as you have this now with AI, we could, just imagine the ability to send out short, couple sentence surveys, open-ended, and then leverage AI in order to ingest and understand that data at scale quickly, right? People are already doing this, but these kinds of, 1 question, 2 question surveys can quickly tackle a number of risks and prevent investment in bad areas, and then focus investment in areas that are promising. And that's something that can be implemented right now. I mean, there's no excuse for not doing it. That's actually something that we're doing at Maryland. Is we're starting to do that with our students inside of our courses.
Oh, really? You
Yeah.
want to share more?
Yeah, it's an initiative that we plan to roll out in greater detail. But essentially, we want to get short surveys from all of our students. We already have surveys that we offer at the beginning and end of courses, and we have a mid-course survey. We want to start breaking that down into smaller questions and then get regular feedback so we can know what's working. I completely changed course in my undergraduate course in project management this semester as I got feedback that students were finding my block a little bit too long. I don't know if you can tell, but I can talk.
No, you don't say. You don't say.
It's you know, um,
They're like,
the
John,
risk.
Mr. Johnson, shorten it.
Shorten it
What you
down.
got?
I was like, all right. But yeah. So we switched gears. And everybody seemed to be even more engaged. And that's the kind of thing that, if you can sense changes, needs that are happening in those who you're serving while you're serving them and quickly react. I mean, a lot of times it's overload to look at all those surveys every day, but you don't need to look at them every day anymore. Now we have the ability to summarize that data quickly and make it meaningful, and then go pull the thread when we see something worth pulling.
Right. And then grow with that survey.
Yeah.
Right. So there could be like a chained approach to it. Right. So, the student responded last week, and 3 months later, this is the results, or the tag along to the rest of the survey. You know what I mean? So it's like a chain instead of it being all at once.
Yep. One of my favorite metrics as a leading indicator for teams is team happiness, because team happiness is a leading indicator of team velocity. That comes right out of the book, The Art of Scrum, by Sutherland and Sutherland. But it's, we should be able to take temperature surveys, and there are some companies that are doing this really, really well right now in the product space.
Yeah.
But and if we can lift up the drudgery, right? If we can automatically generate those things that we know that we need to do, if we can automatically put together kind of a starting point from which we can then extend for the next increment, the next release, in terms of how we plan, execute, test all of our work, now we have more time to talk and to understand what we're doing and understand our customers, and then make sure that what we do is valuable, right? So that's another area where I know that you all are in particularly focused on enhancing workflow automation and planning automation, so that teams can spend more time having meaningful conversations.
With Swiftly, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. You bring a good point about that, is because those conversations are really, important to have, so that the team can concentrate on the delivery of the value instead of the mundane task of, let me make sure I get this user story right. Let me make sure I get, all these various requirements right, which you want to, right? I'm not saying you're going to bypass that quality, but the conversation is what you need to have. It's not the actual, in-depth scrutiny of the documentation. It is more so the documentation support the execution of the conversation, and then the evolution and solution delivery.
Yep. Card conversation confirmation. It's the conversation that gets everyone to understand what we're building, and everything else is there just to help you remember what you were talking about and why you're doing it, right? And that's not the purpose. The purpose, we need these tools to elevate our work so that we can spend our time talking, thinking, and doing with a clear picture of what it is that we're doing and shared understanding on teams. And I think applying AI to get everyone into that mode would elevate 70-80% of the teams out there, because they still spend way too much time treating user stories like specs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Now, the one thing I do want to touch on, we talked about this the other day, was outcomes, like how people are like pushing outcomes, and they're like, oh, I want to go through a delivery. I know we got to go.
I'm sorry. Smartwatches. They're smart. Like, it's Friday. Oops.
Exactly. You're fine. But before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about and make sure that we discuss how people are pushing outcomes versus trying to actually do the whole analysis part of everything, right? So although we're in this AI, and I hear you're talking about, yes, AI is going to help with certain portions, it's going to help us think more, yada yada yada, give us time to actually do our jobs more efficiently. But I do want people to understand that just because you have AI does not mean that your outcomes become any faster. Like, yes, it should reduce certain things, but like it doesn't mean that you're going to have more output, right? Because more people think that, oh, you need to have more output, more uh, vigor because you now have this solution. Yes, that's true to a certain extent, but it doesn't mean that it's going to change a lot of how we're supposed to do stuff. You still need to do the analysis. Now that we have these tools, your analyst should be more efficient. It's about efficiency and not just trying to produce a whole bunch of things at the end so that you can see a result. We still need to be proactive and not reactive.
I completely co-sign with everything you just said. And the main and the my and would be that it is a noisier environment out there today than ever. So we don't need more. What we need is something better. And that was ultimately the goal of good product management. And good product management, the intent of using agile techniques for great product management was that we were going to build less that did more. And that doesn't mean that you're doing less. In fact, that probably means that you're doing more discovery and exploration work. You're doing, the majority of the work on agile teams should be about validated learning, because we can build a lot of stuff. The problem is once you build it, now you got to support it, and now you got to keep it going. And if it's not valuable for your customer, then you just end up with all of this work that creates no value for them, and it creates costs for you, and it's not what they're buying, and they're probably annoyed by it, right? So how can we take this opportunity with AI to change it? The way we can do that is use AI in our connected tools to get real insights into our customers, yet take the efficiency and create the space so that you can actually do really great discovery. And that should be the centerpiece of what everyone is doing right now. Because, if you don't do it, you're just going to get beaten by somebody else who is doing it. Yes. Even in protected markets, they won't be protected for long.
Finance, accounting. Oh, I can't wait till accounting. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of, yes, exactly. Yeah, plenty. Plenty of examples where, accountants can provide incredible value. That's the reason why all the big consultancies were born out of the accounting firms.
Yes.
But it wasn't because of the fact that they were efficiently putting together income statements. It was because of the fact, right? That wasn't the deal. The deal was that they could actually model the business. In this case, talking about how cash flows and where work goes and where value is, right? So this is people get lost in and focused on the process and the minutia, or they get focused on what is the trappings of these different new approaches and ways of thinking. But in the end, it's still that whoever has the best product wins, and the best product is that button I press that does the thing I need it to do, and I don't have to do anything else, right?
Like, everything's like fast.
Exactly. Right? Just, it's an easy button. Where's my easy button for this? If it's more than one click, then, there's still more improvements to make.
Exactly. Yes. And so thank you so much. I just want to kind of close and wrap up and say, as we talk about the Industrial Revolution and the AI revolution that's happening, all of these things that we're talking about, even the outcomes, it's still a lean approach. At the end of the day, it's still a lean approach. Whether you're doing it for manufacturing products, if you're doing it for software development products, it's still taking a lean approach to making sure that we have the best efficiency, the best, quality, especially with cybersecurity. That's the main thing. I think that's there. And then the policy, we got to get every industry involved when thinking about implementing a good strategy for artificial intelligence. And what I mean by that is having your legal team involved for policy,
Yes.
having your accountants involved for how much data you're being processed, because then there's
Yes.
a financial fee that you're going to have to, give up with that because it's costly. It's not free. So thinking about all these different aspects, this is the time in information technology where you need every key player at the table.
Absolutely. And they all have interest. They should all want to be at this table, because everyone's life is going to get a lot better. And we're going to be able to start answering the big questions that we keep on putting off because we're so busy doing the day-to-day. I mean, this is an opportunity to become strategic and operate the way that we always hoped we could.
Right.
So I think it's a pretty exciting time, no matter what function, what team, what value stream, however you organize, wherever you are. This should be pretty exciting. And just keeping the eye on the outcome that you're generating. Like you said, it's not about output, it's about outcome. And our outcomes should be a lot better because we should be able to learn a lot faster.
Oh, I'm now seeing the chats. Hi, Crystal. I didn't see the chats earlier.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah.
Is there more chat?
Yeah, no, that's it. I just didn't see it.
All right.
So anyway, but thank you so much, John. I appreciate our continued collaborations and discussions and talks. So I appreciate it.
Likewise.
Well,
I appreciate everything you do, being a leader in the government and product management community, and bringing people along with you on this journey. And so we really value our partnership with you too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, to all those who are watching or who will watch later, thank you so much for joining. And until next time, we're going to take a break for the summer. We'll be back in the fall because I don't like to sit around on a computer in the summertime.
Right. We need it. Rest is important for us humans. That's biological for humans.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you, everyone.